8 fastest American cars of the 1962 you never know about. What if I told you that 1962 wasn't just about Cadillacs and chrome, but about raw, hidden speed, cars so fast, even hardcore gearheads never knew they existed? Today, we're diving deep into the 8 fastest American cars of 1962 you never knew about. These aren't your typical showroom queens. These are the forgotten monsters, the secret weapons, the legends that roared before muscle cars even had a name. Which one would have ruled your hometown street back in the day? Stick around because you're about to discover a side of 1962 that most have forgotten, but real enthusiasts will never let die. Drop a comment, share your memories, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Muscle Car Masters, where lost legends live again. (1962) Pontiac Grand Prix 421 Super Duty. In 1962, Pontiac wasn't just building cars. They were building street legal weapons, and the king of them all was the 1962 Pontiac Grand Prix 421. Super Duty, beneath its clean restrained lines, lurked a brute. The 421 cubic inch V8 Super Duty, officially rated at 405 horsepower, and a staggering 425 pound-feet of torque. This monster ran a serious compression ratio of 11:1, feeding 2 massive Carter AFB 4-barrel carburetors. Thanks to its lightened internal components and aggressive tuning, the Grand Prix 421 SD could rocket from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5.5 seconds and crush the quarter-mile in around 13.8 seconds. Mind-bending performance for a luxury coupe, tipping the scales at over 4,200 pounds. But here's the real secret. Pontiac quietly produced a few super lightweight variants for hardcore racers. These unicorns featured aluminum front clips, hoods, fenders, bumpers, and even drilled frame components. Combined with the brutal Super Duty drivetrain, these featherweight Grand Prix terrorized NHRA, super stock racing in 1962 and 1963. Behind the scenes, though, trouble was brewing. Chevrolet executives, embarrassed by Pontiac's consistent domination, pressured GM's top brass. Early that year, GM issued a corporate ban. No more racing support across divisions. Dealers like Royal Pontiac had to go underground, selling race parts through back doors to trusted buyers. As a result, surviving 421 Super Duty Grand Prix became mythical symbols of an era when Detroit built cars for winners, not committees. But if you think that was fast, wait until you meet the next beast, where elegance and raw power collide head-on. (1962) Chrysler 300H. At first glance, the 1962 Chrysler 300H looked like something you'd find parked in front of a country club, all polished chrome, formal styling, and understated elegance. But don't be fooled. Beneath that refined exterior hid a brutal street machine tailor-made to dominate the new American horsepower wars. Under its long, sculpted hood thumped Chrysler's mighty 413 cubic inch Golden Lion V8, officially rated at 380 horsepower and an incredible 470 pound-feet of torque. Thanks to a 10.1:1 compression ratio, feeding the beast were dual Carter 4-barrel carburetors mounted on a high-flow aluminum intake. Despite weighing over 4,200 pounds, the 300H could launch from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 7.1 seconds and sprint the quarter-mile in around 15.3 seconds. Lightning fast for what many mistook for a luxury cruiser. Only 435 Chrysler 300H hardtops were ever built that year, making it one of the rarest and most desirable members of Chrysler's legendary letter series behind closed doors. Chrysler engineers quietly experimented with even hotter versions, including prototypes fitted with high-rise dual-quad setups rumored to push output beyond 410 horsepower. But concerns over overstressing the torque of flight. A 727 three-speed automatic transmission, still new technology at the time, led management to quietly kill the project before it reached production. Enthusiasts today revere the 300H as a tuxedo with a right hook. Elegant enough for the ballroom, brutal enough for the drag strip. It wasn't just a fast Chrysler. It was Chrysler's middle finger to anyone who thought big cars couldn't dance. But the next machine didn't just upset the competition, it made GM executives sweat bullets. Stay tuned for a Chevy sleeper that rewrote the rules of the street. (1962) Chevrolet Biscayne 409. At first glance, the 1962 Chevrolet Biscayne 409 looked like a no-frills grocery getter. Cheap, basic, and easy to miss. But under its plain skin, it packed a street-fighting soul. Its heart was the legendary 409 cubic-inch V8, cranking out 409 horsepower and 420 pound-feet of torque, fed by dual carter, 4 barrels, and a screaming solid lifter, camshaft. A stout 11-to-1 compression ratio meant this motor loved high-octane fuel and high RPM punishment. Thanks to its stripped-down body lighter glass, no sound deadening and minimal trim, the fleet spec. Biscayne could rocket from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 6.2 seconds and tear through the quarter-mile in the mid-13s, often outrunning flashy Impalas, new GTOs, and even some European exotics. Chevrolet never put it on the front page. They wanted to protect Impala SS sales, but the racers knew Whisper Network's handshake deals and dealer connections spread the gospel of the plain white wrapper 409. Today, finding a real deal. Biscayne 409 is like spotting Bigfoot at a drag strip. Rare, raw, and impossible to forget. Think sleepers were subtle. The next monster didn't just hide its bite, it built a legend in NHR, that still echoes today. (1962) Dodge Dart 413, Max Wedge. If there was ever a machine built with one pure mission, to annihilate the quarter mile, it was the 1962 Dodge Dart 413, Max Wedge. This wasn't a comfortable cruiser, it was Detroit's version of a sledgehammer. Tucked under its relatively tame exterior was the fearsome 413 cubic-inch Max Wedge V8, offered in 2 brutal versions, 410 horsepower and 420 horsepower, with a monstrous 470 pound-feet of torque. At its most aggressive, the Dart's Max Wedge ran an insane 13.5-to-1 compression ratio, requiring high-octane racing fuel just to survive. The magic lay not only in brute force, but in engineering wizardry. Dodge equipped the Max Wedge with the now legendary cross-ram intake system featuring 2 huge 4-barrel carburetors mounted far apart using tuned runners to boost torque, right where it mattered, mid-range acceleration. Add forged internals, solid lifters, free-flowing heads, and custom Doug's headers, and you had a factory monster ready to destroy the quarter mile straight off the showroom floor. Performance was blistering, 0 to 60 miles per hour in 5.8 seconds, and quarter-mile passes deep into the low 13-second zone, numbers that humiliated more expensive, heavier rivals. A raised front suspension stance wasn't for show. It helped with weight transfer and better traction off the line, critical for drag racing domination. What's even more fascinating, Dodge deliberately limited production to only a few hundred units to slip the Dart Max Wedge into NHRA racing classes under the radar, making it a dealer-only secret weapon known only to the sharpest racers. Today, original 1962. Dartmax Wedge cars are some of the most feared and most sought-after legends of early muscle car history. But hang tight, because the next machine didn't just race. It roared with a triple carb fury that could shame anything Detroit dared to build. (1962) Ford Galaxie 406 Tri-Power. By 1962, Detroit was deep into a horsepower arms race, and Ford wasn't about to come unarmed. Their answer, the brutal 1962 Ford Galaxie 406 Tri-Power, a heavyweight built for all-out war. Underneath its wide, imposing hood roared the 406 cubic-inch FE Series V8, belting out 405 horsepower and 448 pound-feet of torque. Fueled by an aggressive tri-power setup, 3 two-barrel Holley carburetors synchronized to deliver unrelenting mid-range punch. With a compression ratio of 11.4 to 1, this Galaxie wasn't polite. It was violent. Coupled with a Borg-Warner T10 4-speed and 4.11 rear gears, the big Ford could rip from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 6.5 seconds and bulldoze the quarter-mile in 15.4 seconds. Times that startled even owners of lighter Pontiacs and Mopars. The 406 wasn't delicate. It was brute force. No Italian coupe or British roadster could match the earth-moving torque pouring out of Dearborn's toughest full-size weapon. And deep inside, Ford's skunkworks engineers were already cooking up something even nastier, the 427. But while Ford prepared for all-out horsepower war, a luxury brand quietly unleashed a sleeper with muscle no one expected. (1962) Mercury Monterey S55 390 Marauder. While Ford was swinging for the fences with its Galaxie 406, Mercury, Ford's more upscale division, decided they weren't about to sit quietly on the sidelines. Enter the 1962 Mercury Monterey S55, armed with the mighty 390 cubic-inch Marauder V8, a full-size performance car with genuine teeth behind its luxury facade. Underneath the elegant sheet metal was serious muscle. The 390 Marauder high-performance version pumped out up to 401 horsepower and a strong 430 pound-feet of torque. Thanks to its 10.5 to 1 compression ratio, aggressive camshaft and free-breathing intake setup, a single big 4-barrel carburetor fed this beast. And when paired with the optional Borg-Warner T10 4-speed manual, the S55 could sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 7.0 seconds and knock down the quarter mile in around 15.5 seconds. Fast enough to earn serious respect on any main street in America, Mercury wasn't content to just drop a big engine into a big body. They backed it up with bucket seats, a floor-mounted shifter, heavy-duty suspension tuning, and beefed-up brakes, making the S55 not just a straight-line warrior, but a surprisingly agile full-size machine. It had the look of a businessman's ride, but the soul of a brawler. Few people know that some Mercury engineers secretly fitted a handful of S55 prototypes with experimental 406 and even early 427 setups test beds that would later help define Ford's racing dominance. Most of these prototypes were quietly crushed, but whispers of their existence still echo in Mercury enthusiast circles today. Today, the 1962 Monterey S55 390 Marauder remains a rare and stylish reminder of a time when you could roll into town looking like a gentleman and leave every other car in your dust. But if you think a luxury sleeper was impressive, the next car took deception to a whole new level, hiding a supercharger beneath its modest skin. 1962. Studebaker, Lark, Daytona, 289, R2. When you hear the name Studebaker, you might not immediately think of street performance. But in 1962, the quiet little company from South Bend, Indiana, unleashed a surprise weapon that would shock even the big three automakers. The Studebaker, Lark, Daytona, 289, R2. At the heart of this lightweight compact was a 289 cubic inch V8. But this wasn't just a warmed-over version of a family motor. This 289 was factory supercharged thanks to a Paxton centrifugal blower pushing 5 psi of boost. The result? An underrated 290 horsepower and 303 pound-feet of torque, with a compression ratio of 10.25 to 1 numbers that placed the Lark Daytona R2 squarely in muscle car territory before the term even existed. Despite its modest appearance, the Lark R2 could rocket from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 6.3 seconds and tear down the quarter mile in about 14.7 seconds, times that embarrassed much larger and more expensive rivals. With its light curb weight, short wheelbase, and supercharged punch, the R2 was an absolute terror on the street. Few enthusiasts realized that Studebaker had even bigger plans. Engineers developed an R3 version A bored and stroked, 304 cubic inch V8, supercharged to the brink, making over 335 horsepower, and an even wilder R4 variant with dual 4 barrels and high compression internals. Sadly, Studebaker's financial troubles meant only a handful of R3 and R4 cars were ever built, and the R2 stood as the last great hurrah of Studebaker's performance legacy. Today, the Lark Daytona 289 R2 is celebrated as one of America's first true factory sleepers, a car that could cruise unnoticed right up until the moment it left everything else choking in its dust. But save your breath, because the final machine on our list didn't just hide its performance. It introduced a revolutionary technology that would change American performance forever. 1962. Chevrolet Corvair Monza, Spyder Turbo. While most of Detroit's heavy hitters in 1962 were stuffing ever larger V8s under increasingly massive hoods, Chevrolet took a radically different path and made history in the process. Enter the 1962 Chevrolet Corvair Monza Spyder Turbo, the first mass-produced turbocharged American car. Powering the sleek little Corvair was an air-cooled rear-mounted 145 cubic inch flat 6. But thanks to a relatively compact Rajay turbocharger, this modest boxer engine cranked out an impressive 150 horsepower and 210 pound-feet of torque, with a compression ratio of 8:1, lower than its naturally aspirated cousins to accommodate forced induction. While those horsepower numbers might sound tame today in 1962, they were revolutionary, especially when stuffed into a car that weighed just over 2,600 pounds. The Monza Spyder could hustle from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 8.8 seconds and run the quarter mile in the low 17-second range. Not muscle car numbers, but impressive, given its size and displacement, and faster than many larger 6-cylinder competitors of the day. Beyond raw numbers, it was the driving experience that set the Spyder apart. Smooth, flat cornering thanks to its rear engine layout, combined with the whoosh and surge of turbo boost, something no other American car offered at the time. Behind the scenes, Chevrolet's engineers faced serious skepticism. Many higher-ups feared turbocharging would confuse buyers or lead to reliability nightmares. Early prototypes required extensive tuning to manage heat detonation and oiling challenges. But when it all came together, the Spyder represented a bold leap into the future of performance. Today, the 1962 Corvair Monza Spyder Turbo stands as a pioneering piece of American automotive innovation, the beginning of a performance technology that would later dominate racing sports cars and everyday muscle machines alike. Which one of these hidden beasts from 1962 surprised you the most? Maybe you remember seeing one tear up Main Street. Or maybe you were lucky enough to drive one yourself. We want to hear your story. Drop a comment below and share your memories with our growing brotherhood of American muscle car enthusiasts. And if you believe real horsepower, real memories, and real machines deserve to live forever, then smash that like button, subscribe, and share this video with a fellow gearhead. Here at Muscle Car Masters, we don't just love cars, we preserve their legacy.